Um, Hello, everyone. Welcome to our new episode of Human Brain Expo. And we're really thinking to make our episodes more practical, more helpful in your everyday life, in your everyday activities. And today we are talking with a certified doctor, with a professional person in the area of psychiatry and neuroscience, Dr. Kamran. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Absolutely.
So today we'd like to discuss the basic thing, seems like sleep. Well, the thing is, sleep is such a core of any human life, and we often not putting so much attention toward it. Sleep. Sleep is something. Sometimes for work, it could be even. It could be. Not in line with our objectives or something, sometimes our body needs more sleep than we expected. So sleep is something we all do, but not that many people understand the main questions about sleep. First of all, let's talk about why do we need sleep? Why do we sleep? Why do we need it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And when you think about it, when you think about the human species, but also other species on our planet, sleep is a strange phenomenon. It's like, just the individual, the species kind of needs to be down for a long period of time. In fact, we spend a big part of our lives sleeping. So when you think about that, obviously from a physiological point of view, from a brain point of view in terms of brain dynamics, from information processing point of view, there are many aspects of why human beings or even animals need to sleep. But talking more about humans, it seems to me that aside from the fact that certain processes need to happen in our physiology, like digestion and other aspects. There's actually research in neuroscience showing that during the day and as we process information, there is great amount of toxins that in our brain actually they start to kind of build up. And at least one function of sleep, yes, one function of sleep is actually kind of detoxing. And imagine if you build up all this in your system at night, we need to go through these cycles where we need to wash it off and we need to cleanse our system so the next day we are refreshed and ready to experience the world, take in information, process information, and basically send it to the right places in our brain to be stored and to be used as a model for a world that we're living in and we need to react to. So if we just take in information, we don't have time to process it, then that information just doesn't do much for us. So from at least from my point of view, aside from other physiological needs that we have, such as, again, digestion and other things, our nervous system really needs to do to have downtime, our cardiac health, other aspects of our health, the information processing and really using your experience during the day and the information you gather and being able to actually filter through the information, toss what's not needed and what matters. So it can prepare you for the next day
and organize everything we got during the day. Cognitively work.
Absolutely.
The thing is, that's a very speculative question. How long humans are supposed to sleep? Just, I've heard from like scientists, like people with PhDs, people from different perspectives. Some even think that we don't really need to, if we in a really good physical and mental on the top of our performance, we need like literally minimum. So the better we feel, the better we are physically, mentally, the less we need to sleep. That's the one of the perspective I've heard. Also, I've heard that the better you get at understanding of your body function, the less you literally sleep less. What's your perspective? What do you think about the amount of sleep?
Yeah, I agree with you that there are many different perspectives on that in terms of neuroscience, in terms of other, sleep experts and so on. My general conclusion at this point is that although there are individual variations and individual needs, obviously, but anywhere from 6 to 8 hours of sleep is the average that for most people should be good sleep.
Healthy average.
Healthy average. Now, there are many studies that look at how long people would sleep. Let's say if they don't have access to light and dark and other component of our physiology. This whole thing, I think it's interesting because it's a good segue also for us to talk about circadian rhythms. As you know, there's something called circadian rhythms that are 24-hour biological clocks that are embedded into our physiology and our brain and our autonomic nervous system. So this 24-hour biological cycles regulated by the hypothalamus, they coordinate kind of key processes like sleep, timing, hormone releases, as you know, body temperature, all of these things change during sleep cycles versus alertness. They kind of manage these changes, and there's a mechanism that's innately, trained into our physiology. And these rhythms align our internal physiological clock with external light and dark. In other words, the idea is that when it gets dark, you're supposed to kind of wind down and start to get prepared and go to bed and sleep. And at sunrise, you're supposed to come back and kind of wake up and get engaged.
And pretty much all our physiological processes, our immune system, our hormonal stuff, they're all connected to the circadian. But basically, every time we wake up, a lot of things restarted in our body. And sleeping is something every single of us we need. It's necessary. It's not. We cannot avoid sleeping, and it's something we really have to know the importance. So basically, we know that any disturbance with the sleep patterns, plus if, for example, a person works during the night shifts, right?
Yes, or as they call the graveyard shift, yes.
Yes, as I recall, there are multiple studies we know available everywhere. And those studies that tell that people who work in a night shift, they experience, they have higher chance developing cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, all sort of shorter lifespan. There are so many negative.
There's a lot of that, because look, from our genetic code and DNA and our physiological underpinning has been trained and marked by these cycles of day and light. And imagine the human evolution before we discovered, fire, and or even after we discovered fire, but when we have now access to kind of almost like daylight within our environments at night, so we can fool our physiology that it's day rather than night. But in fact, our physiological cycles need to go through this cycle of day-night in order to really keep a healthy state of brain physiology and our alertness and our consciousness, we do need to go through these cycles. And these cycles are kind of embedded within our genetic code and our physiology. Since the industrialization and post-industrialization, since we have a lot more flexibility of how to bring about light and various types of light, which is not limited to the light in the room. It's also screens. It's also your iPhone, your smartphone, etc. We have all these other sources of light that kind of pushes our physiology into a state that it's not really supposed to be in. At night, for instance, your physiological makeup really demands that you have darkness, and that's how your physiology knows that, in fact, okay, now I need to go to sleep. So as you know, there are hormones that are related to sleep-wake cycle, like melatonin, which is released from the pineal gland, and it rises in darkness to promote sleep. So if you're exposed to light, especially blue light, whether it's your screen, your phone, television, or just your room light that you use, basically it's going to reduce the development, the secretion of melatonin. Therefore, you cannot sleep as well, or it will disrupt your sleep. Cortisol, which is basically a hormone that's released from the adrenal glands, usually peaks in the early morning to promote wakefulness. Again, if you're doing that in the middle of the night or in the late hours of the evening, well, you're promoting wakefulness. You're giving a message to your brain and nervous system that, hey, you should wake up. And that's what then so light really, and the type of light and the timing of light is so crucial, so important for our these cycles, the circadian rhythm. And all of these will impact body temperature, alertness, cognitive performance, and so on.
Is it true that if any issue with the sleep, if a person didn't sleep well for multiple reasons, a person has actually high chance of developing psychosis?
Oh, absolutely. There has been studies where they took healthy individuals and they made them basically go through a period of sleep deprivation. And after a few nights of not letting them sleep, they develop psychosis symptoms. They start to break down cognitively. They start to have all kinds of symptoms that are similar to people who have psychotic disorders. So the fact is we do need sleep. Sleep deprivation impacts every aspect of our physiological health, cognitive health, emotional health, and it cannot be understated. Yeah.
I discovered just recently, it turned out that the sleep patterns, they're strongly connected to the aging. It seems like people who have better understanding, healthier patterns of sleeping, they have higher chance to live longer. True?
Absolutely. Not only that, I've heard also of studies pointing that to cognitive and brain diseases such as Alzheimer's, for instance.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And Parkinson's. And also what we know today from research is that not only sleeping appropriately and enough at night, and obviously there are different stages of sleep, but we'll get into that in a moment, but also afternoon naps, which is something a lot of older cultures had it embedded into their lifestyle, like the siesta, or various cultures had this period in the afternoon where you'll take a nap, is now associated with improved mood and cognition and so on. But this is tricky, because if you sleep too much in the afternoon, then you will delay having good sleep onset, and it will disrupt your sleep at night. Whereas if you sleep or if you nap for about 20 minutes in the afternoon, it can actually refresh and improve your cognitive functions, and it can be very healthy for your system.
Very very fascinating. The recommendation is if taking a nap. So if you want to take a nap, you basically only can do it before 2 p.m., right? And not longer than.
If you take it away late in the afternoon, in the late afternoon, then it can disrupt your sleep onset. Also, if it's too long, let's say if you sleep for 2 hours, and I talk to patients all the time and said, oh, I slept for 2 hours. And I'm like, okay, well, if you want to get a boost, 20 to 30 minutes max, because you don't want to get into deeper sleep states at that time. You want to get basically into stage 1 sleep and kind of hover right there rather than going all the way and go through the sleep cycles. And if you do that, then it's very beneficial. If you sleep more than that amount, about 20, 30 minutes, then there is a chance of that actually disrupting your sleep at night.
Interesting. So we know that sleep is extremely important. So it actually influences big time our psychology, the way how we age, our well-being overall, physiological, mental. And we have to announce our course, which is currently available on this website, 3hbrain.com, where every single of us, every single of you, our audience, you can actually learn. You can learn in details everything you need to know about sleep, because we know sleep is extremely important for overall your health, your brain health, your mental health, your physiological health. And the thing is, unfortunately, we know so little about it. Without professional help, it's very hard to get all the details that we need to know. And that's why this course is extremely important and appropriate, because this information is prepared by professionals, and Dr. Kamran was editor in this course, and it has all the details you need to know to get better at.
This is why you need 3H Brain in your life. It's time to revolutionize your health. 3H Brain is your ultimate guide to understanding the human brain and heart. Explore the deep connection between psychological, neurological disorders and chronic conditions. With 3H Brain, you'll discover a treasure trove of helpful information, resources, and support to help you thrive. Dive into courses that offer fresh, modern perspectives. Take tests that bring you closer to innovative solutions designed to cure and strengthen your brain and heart. 3H Brain isn't just a platform, it's a movement towards better health. Join a community that's striving for excellence and knowledge. Get inspired, stay informed, and take control of your health journey like never before. Ready for a smarter, healthier you? Discover 3H Brain today, because your brain and heart deserve the best.
More appropriate for people who have, if people have specific, let's say, chronic condition, or any trauma, or any other not healthy state. Basically, the getting better at sleep can be vital for them, right? So a lot of things, including pain, can be improved.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just kind of share with you that as you know, I have a clinic in New York City where we see people with for brain health, longevity, when they come with mental health issues, or they're just interested in peak performance. The number one question that in my intake I ask them is about their sleep health. And why? Because unless their sleep cycles and their sleep is optimized, nothing else is going to fall into place the right way. In other words, as we discussed, if they're not sleeping well, their mental health, their emotional health, and their cognitive health is going to be jeopardized. So one of the first things we work on, and one of the first things we see improve before other symptoms actually start to improve, is that they start to sleep better.
It's very important. Also, I know that there are multiple ways you can actually influence the way you sleep, using specific lights, using the music, specific music. Tell us a little bit about the light and the music that actually can improve.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I always talk about when I talk about sleep hygiene with my patients, well, it's twofold. One is absolute pitch black darkness in your room when you want to sleep. No light. Even the small amount of blue light that comes from your alarm clock is too much. I would ask them to even kill that. So pitch black, absolute no light. So that's number one. And then number two, which is almost as important, is when you wake up in the morning, get sunlight in your eyes for 30 to 60 minutes of waking, you know, for 10 to 30 minutes. So about half hour to an hour from the time you wake up, you go out and you allow sun to really have your eyes to have exposure to the direct sunlight. For even 10 minutes is enough, but 10 to 30 minutes. In other words, if you go out for a walk, you've done it. Or if you have a patio or you have a place you can sit out for, you know, to have breakfast or just to sit down and read something for 10 to 30 minutes every morning.
Sip of coffee.
Yeah, sip of coffee, absolutely, which also helps to wake up. So that is so important because there's a healthy boost to the cortisol in the morning that suppresses melatonin, and that's exactly what you need. You don't want these hormones to be kind of laying on top of one another. You want to kind of get rid of melatonin, bring the light up, get more cortisol, healthy cortisol in your system, and get that going.
Extremely important. Thank you so much for sharing with us this.
Absolutely.
You know what? That was a discovery for me. Nowadays, we have so many sleeping remedies. Some of them out of counter, so you literally can buy, like melatonin, etc. We have so many medications available. What's your recommendation? I know that it's very depends on the case. It's case by case.
Yeah,
it's interesting for me with discovery. We discussed a little bit. It was a discovery for me to know that all those things, all those medications for sleep, they actually influence cognitive.
Absolutely. Yeah. So think about it this way. First of all, I don't recommend to my patients to take sleeping pills unless they have mastered sleep hygienes and they have practiced it for weeks and they still don't have good sleep, which, by the way, there are other methods that we use to even help that, including neurofeedback and other methodologies that we teach the brain and the nervous system how to actually smoothly get into stages of sleep and stay in there and go deep and know. So unless you've really done everything else, I don't recommend going the medication route. But let's say if you do enter that zone and you want to take medication, I know that for many people, melatonin actually helps when they take it sublingually. In other words, it's a form that's not a pill, but it gets absorbed under your tongue. It's either liquid or powder. That gets absorbed quicker. But if you're going to take something like that, you need to take it about an hour before you want to actually fall asleep. Give it a little time. But I also know that many people might have side effects with even melatonin, which is over the counter, right? Some people experience nightmares with melatonin. But the other agents that are used, let's say if you go and get sleeping pills, right, which is very common, first of all, you're increasing reliance on medication. You're not training your brain and nervous system to naturally go through the circadian rhythm and train it. So you're forcing it to basically get sedated and go to sleep. And the sedation has negative impact on your cognition. In other words, your attention, focus, memory, your speed of processing, all of those things can be impacted. Plus, you can it can lead to reliance on medication, which is not the best way to go. But there are circumstances when people are in crisis and they haven't slept for a long time. They need to take medication. I understand that. But overall, there are many ways to teach the brain and the nervous system how to relax and how to get into deeper states and how to sleep better.
You know what? Your patients so blessed to have you, because you what I see, you are caring about them so much, because I spoke with a lot of like psychologists, and they usually use the protocol, like the pretty straightforward for most of them. And you are using like very, not just unique, very, very thoughtful, scientifically proven things, and very thoughtful. It's very very careful,
that.
and that's I believe it's obvious, and I believe everyone who will see, who will hear us, will be able to see it. That's impressive. Anyhow, so we know that sleep is something that we all have to take care about, because it affects pretty much everything, all aspects of our life, mental health, physical health. So please be aware that you know all the nuances, and you always can go back to 3H Brain and take the course dedicated to the sleep hygiene. Anyhow, I believe we covered the main aspects of the sleep, right? Do you agree?
Absolutely. There are a few other things I'm just going to mention quickly in terms of waking up every day at the same time is very helpful. Going to bed every day at the same time is very helpful. And there are other sleep hygiene recommendations that are covered in the course that I think people can really benefit from. And that's the other thing I want to mention is that one of the things that we see very solidly when we work with our patients with the various interventions that we use with neuromodulations at the clinic is one of the markers when their symptoms improve is that their sleep improves. And what's also fascinating, Evgenia, is that they start to sleep deeper, and they start to sleep obviously better. Sleep onset gets better, but they also remember their dreams more, and their dreams become more vivid and more interesting, which is another whole set of ideas that we can explore in the future.
Wow, that's interesting. We have to discuss it, because it's very. I know Freud was. There are multiple books about his interpretation of it, but it's interesting. The dreams, the role, how we perceive them, how we remember them. It tells a lot about how our brain works, about our priorities, it's so fascinating. Oh my God, brain science, I believe, is the most fascinating subject matter. It affects everything we know.
Freud thought that dreams were the highway to our unconscious. Yes,
I will include several advertisements in this short video for our YouTube, and we will continue discussion of the interesting practical aspects of human brain health, human brain neurology, psychiatry, etc. later. Dr. Kamran, thank you so much. It was super helpful.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.